everyone, thank you so much for attending our webinar today. We are here representing the Robert H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland. My name is Allie Benton and I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions with the full-time MBA program, and I've got two of our current students here who will speak a little bit later in the presentation. So first and foremost, just wanted to welcome you and thank you for coming to learn a little bit more about the Smith School. First, I'll go through a quick presentation just to teach you a little bit more about the curriculum, community, and Office of Career Services here at Smith. And then we'll open things up to questions. I'll have our first and second year student here with me kind of introduce themselves, talk a little bit more, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. So we will go ahead and get started. So first, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about our incoming class, the class of 17 that just started this August. They had an average GPA of about a 3.3. They had between 2 and 5 years of work experience. We had almost 20% military, either active duty or veterans in our program, and 39% women, which is something we're very excited about. It was a 5% increase from last year. About 22% diversity, 34% international students. Our average TOEFL score was about 100. Our class size was 98, and we generally bring in right around that amount, right at 100. Our average GMAT was 660, and we had about 1,000 applications. That's just kind of a snapshot of what we brought in last year and kind of our average year to year. Then in terms of admissions, we have a pretty holistic admissions process, and these are our requirements. So we look at your academic indicators, including your undergraduate or graduate GPA and transcripts. If you have any postgraduate coursework, whether it's a master's program, certificate program, we review that as well. We look at GMAT or GRE performance as well, and we don't have a preference for exams. So whichever one you're more comfortable taking, we accept. We also look at your work experience in the form of a 1 to 2 page resume. We have one required essay and one optional essay, and the optional essay is there for you to address any point in your application you feel as though needs explanation, maybe a weakness, or if you want to tell us something else about your background or your experience that you weren't able to in any other part of the application process, but that optional essay is very much optional. We have one letter of recommendation that we require, and that is through the application system. So no need to write a full letter. You go in the application, fill out their information, it sends them a form, so you don't have to do too much with that. And then lastly is an interview, and our interview process only, it's the next step in the admissions process, and it's here with one of my colleagues on the admissions team, and we do them both in person if you're in the area or via Skype. This page tells you a little bit more about our deadlines, and I'll explain the two columns here for you. The first column is our application deadlines. Our first deadline was October 1st, and our next upcoming deadline is December 15th. So that's the left-hand column. On the right-hand side, you'll see that's our decision mailing dates. So those are when we as an admissions committee owe you a decision. The two most important deadlines for you to take a look at is December 15th, 2015, which is our priority deadline for scholarship consideration for international students, and then January 15th, 2016, which is the deadline for priority consideration for domestic students. So the next slide I will talk about is scholarships. So keeping in mind those deadlines, if you apply by the priority consideration deadline, you'll be automatically reviewed by our scholarship committee. So we have two different kinds of scholarship. You can earn a monetary award, or you can do a graduate assistantship. So graduate assistantship means you'll work with one of our offices here at Smith. You get automatic in-state tuition remission, which means they take a little bit of chunk off of your tuition on top of the in-state status. You also get paid a stipend biweekly for your work. And our scholarships include money, or just a GA, or one of them together. So you could get a monetary amount plus a GA-ship. 82% of our incoming class of 2017 received some sort of merit-based funding, so it's really important that you try and make those deadlines that were in the last slide if financial consideration is a big priority for you. So now that we've covered the admissions process, I want to talk a little bit more about what it's like as a Smith student in terms of curriculum. So our program is broken up into 54 credits, 22 of which are your core credits, which you'll take first, and then 32 elective credits. This gives you a snapshot of what a typical first-year student's first year looks like. So we break up our semesters into 2 terms. So you have 4 terms a year, is you'll see for the fall semester, Term A and Term B are pretty much well laid out for you with your core classes. But one thing that makes us unique at Smith is during the spring semester, Term C and Term D, we allow you to start taking elective courses. And we do that for a few reasons. We want you to get into those classes that really focus on your niche. But most importantly, we want you to be able to take some elective courses before you start your summer internship, which generally happens after Term D. Now a little bit more about your electives. So we've grouped our elective courses into optional, what we call career tracks, and you'll see them listed on the bullet points below. So what these are carefully crafted groupings of elective courses that are done by our Office of Career Services and our faculty to help you build your curriculum a little bit more focused into a certain area. So there is flexibility within each of these career tracks. Let's say if you were a marketing career track, you could also take classes in supply chain or entrepreneurship, but they really help you focus and build your learning a little bit more cohesively. The next part of the elective courses is what we call Smith Experience. So these are experiential learning projects and classes that you can take where you'll work with real companies and real organizations to earn credit. So aside from your internship, we want you to get as much experience learning from other companies and the real world as possible. So we've got 5 different pillars for these experiential learning projects: consulting, global, social value creation, entrepreneurship, and investing. And the projects normally fall within 1 or 2 of those categories. So to give you some examples, you can do both domestic and global consulting projects. We also have global business programs, which are similar to a study abroad, that allow you to take classes and focus on a particular area of business in a certain country and go visit that country. We also have what is called the New Markets Venture Club, which falls under the entrepreneurship, investing, and social value creation buckets. And it allows you to work with a VC firm here in the area and help invest in startup companies in both the DC and Baltimore area. And I'll have our current students a little bit later talk more about the Smith Experience projects that they've worked on. Next is Office of Career Services, which is a huge portion of looking into which MBA program is right for you. Here at Smith, we've designed an innovative and robust career development curriculum that involves experiential learning that I just talked about, alumni engagement, helping students step out of their comfort zones, and teaching key foundations and essentials for job searching. So your Office of Career Services team actually starts working with you before you even step foot on campus for orientation, as you'll see at the bottom. You'll do pre-orientation calls and webinars. After that, you'll work on retooling your resume, your cover letters, and then once you get into the program, interview prep, mock interviews with alumni, and preparing for fairs and networking. So it's a very cohesive career services programming. This is a huge list, but these are some of the companies that our MBAs were employed at for 2014-2015. Just to highlight a few: Amazon, Campbell's, Capital One, Ernst & Young, Fannie Mae, Marriott, McCormick, and so many more. And this is just a sampling list. We have students that go across industries each year, and we always are adding new companies and new employers that work with Smith. On the left-hand side, you'll see some information about our placement rates. So for the class of 2015, our internship placement rate was about 97%, and for full-time placement jobs by 3 months after graduation, which is 89%, which is something we're very proud of. So one of the biggest things for us here at Smith is our community. I think it sets us apart. It's a big part of the application process. We want to make sure incoming students really fit in with our community, which is very collaborative. And so we do that, and we foster a lot of ways for you to build community and build a network of people that you can keep even after you graduate from your MBA. So you do that in a number of ways. We have socials every Thursday with students, faculty, and staff, and that allows you to get to know people you might not have classes with that semester, interact with faculty outside of the classroom, and even faculty you might not have had a chance to have yet. We also do tailgates, as you'll see in this picture. We're at the Capital One Stadium at Burb Field. We also do cultural events like International Night. We're celebrating Diwali this month as well. You can participate in intramural sports at the university level as well. And then most of our students are involved at clubs at Smith. And again, our students will talk a little bit more about this as well. But we kind of break our clubs up into 2 categories, both cultural and industry specific. So we have Women in the MBA, which is more of a cultural club, or Asian MBA. Then we also have industry-based. So you could have Healthcare Business Association, Emerging Markets, the Finance Association, and most of our students belong to 1, maybe 2, or 3. You can also hold leadership positions within these clubs as well, so it gives you another opportunity to build your resume while you're in school. The last slide I'm going to show you is for our Smith Showcase event coming up this December. It's our next big signature event. It'll be on December 5th, 2015. It's one of our premier events during the year. We have current students, alumni. We're even bringing in our board of directors to come talk about what they've done in their time since going to school. It's a great chance to get to know a little bit more about Smith in depth and interact with faculty and community members as well. So as I said, it's invite only, so we look at your resume, GMAT or GRE scores if you have them, and we ask that you fill out a Smith Showcase application form, which you can find at smithshowcase.com. And just to clarify, that application is only for the event. You don't have to submit an application for admission to attend. So hope to all see you there. Now that I'm done with my presentation, I'm going to have the current students that I have here with me introduce themselves and talk a little bit about themselves really quick, and then we will open up the floor to questions.
Hi everyone, my name's Deanna Rojas. I'm a first-year MBA student, so right now I'm about 2 months into the program. My focus is marketing, but I'm also taking some general management classes as well. And prior to business school, I was in the B2B marketing field, but I'm looking to go B2C now. Specifically work with consumer packaged goods companies.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam Schwester. I'm a second-year MBA student here at Smith, and my focus is general management. Prior to business school, I had my own startup in energy field. I did about 4 years. Business didn't pan out as I anticipated, and I'm in school. And after graduating, I will be working at Bank of America as a technology MBA associate in Charlotte.
Great, so we are now open for questions. You can ask questions both of me, kind of on the admissions and curriculum side, and I highly encourage you to ask some questions of our current students based on their experiences here, the community, what they've become involved in, and their interactions with Office of Career Services. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, since we just talked a little bit about Office of Career Services, if each of you could talk a little bit about your experiences as a first year and now second year student with placement, just talking a little bit more about your interactions with them.
Sure, so as a first year student, I would definitely stress the fact that the process begins even before you come to school. So over the summer, you're going to meet your career coach, who is a consistent person that essentially you're just going to partner with throughout your 2 years. They all have experience within the field that you're going in. So for example, I'm in marketing. My coach Cassandra worked in marketing for many, many years. She has a lot of experience. And with that, also just a huge network that she's able to put you in contact with which is great. So over the summer, you're working on your resume. They're helping you get your cover letter in order. If you have, any questions, concerns, she can always pair you with second-year students, which are also just a great resource to have when you're looking for a summer internship or looking for that full-time position. And again, this is something you're working with over the summer before you even get here to kind of just have that running start. Office of Career Services also just offers, the ability to do mock interviews. If you have, it can be small questions, or if you're having a particular problem, they can brainstorm with you, as well as just discuss all the various corporate presentations that are coming on campus. So they'll let you know all the companies that Ali mentioned when they're attending, so you can attend those events as well.
Yeah, I think Deanna mentioned it pretty well. So the job search actually starts right before you even come to Smith School, and the career coaches are, basically not just there to find you a job, but also to guide you, what you might have questions about, what emerging concentrations and everything else you are interested in, and so on.
All right, looks like we got some questions coming in. So what is the typical day like at Smith from a student's perspective? If you both want to answer that, that'd be great.
So my first year, it was very busy. So I was out of school for about almost 10 years, and getting back to school life was very difficult for me, and kind of balancing that school life and my life outside school was very tough for me. And probably first semester, I spent about maybe 8 to 10 hours in school, from 8 in the morning to 6 at least. And beside that, group projects, you spend a lot of time with your class cohorts and groups. But second year, it's been a little laid back. You spend less work, more time with family, less time in school. That's probably because, once you have your jobs lined up as well, you kind of have a different balance within school life.
Yeah, I would completely agree with everything that Sam said. It's definitely a juggling act. You're handling, the career, the team projects. Most of us are involved in various clubs and organizations, as well as your classes, exams, all of that, which I think the fact that we do have a collaborative environment just makes it that a little bit easier to bear, because you're all going through it at the same time. You're all in it together. And we do have case rooms here that are specific just for MBA students. So, nights before an exam, a bunch of your classmates can have like a study session in there. And they're just these nice rooms that are reserved for you that you can print for free. And it's nicer than a library. It's not a big library where you're with a bunch of undergraduates. It's specifically for you, which is nice.
Great. Another question coming in. What are the international mobility rates for students at the Smith School? So I can talk a little bit about this, and then if current students want to add in, they can. But we have about a third international students coming in each year, and that's pretty consistent year to year. And we have students from all over the world coming in. So I think one of the biggest things, biggest hurdles and common questions that people ask about as international students are the fact that you do have that extra hurdle if you'd like to work here in the U.S. with the visa situation. So one of the ways that we remedy that, along with having, as Deanna had said, second-year students to kind of lean on and talk a little bit more about what they've done. If you work with career services, you'll have your own career coach that works with you in your focus area, but there's also an international career coach that will help you as well, kind of navigate that process a little bit more, be your guide going through there. So that, placement rate that we listed on the Office of Career Services page, that's the same for both domestic and international students. So that was the entire class all bunched together. So it really depends year to year what interests people have, what focus areas people want to go into, and if those companies are sponsoring at that time. So you do have that added challenge, but we have tons of resources here for you for international students. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything.
I think you said it all.
Okay, great. So our next question, can you tell me a little bit about leadership development opportunities or leadership opportunities here at Smith?
So yeah, so one of the biggest opportunity is we have about 20 clubs, and we have each club has its own leadership position that you can apply, and you can basically run a club for a year during your second year, which is a huge opportunity. Beside that, even in classrooms, like if you're interested in experiential learning, you would be working with different organizations. Like, for example, last year I worked with World Bank on a project, solar electrification project, and we had a small cohort of about four MBAs. That those kind of opportunities allows people to kind of develop leadership skills and so on.
During your first year, you actually take a leadership class, which is great to kick you off. And then as a first-year student, you also can run to be a first-year board member on some of the clubs that we have, so you don't have to be a second-year student. For example, right now I'm a first-year board member on the Graduate Marketing Association and the Latin American MBA Association. So there's definitely multiple opportunities to get involved. It's up to you how many you want to do.
So I think this is more of an admissions question. What is the age range for the class and the max experience? This person in particular has around 11 years of experience and wants to know if it's on the higher side. So the nice part about us having a really holistic admissions experience or process is that we really look at people in different ways. You know, a perfect score on the GMAT could be one thing for one person and a totally different thing for another person. So somebody with a lot more work experience, we're really going to hold that in high regard. You have a lot of things that you're going to be able to bring to the classroom in terms of your experience. And we'll look at the GMAT and GRE as well, but we'll really hold that work experience in high regard. On the other end of that, somebody with a little bit less work experience, kind of really on the low end of the 2 years, we might look at their GMAT score a little bit more heavily, just so we can gauge their readiness for the program. I would say if you have more experience or less experience, you're definitely not at a disadvantage for the program. We do a really good job during the admissions process wanting to make sure that not only will you fit in with the community, but if we bring you here, will you be successful both in the classroom and do we have the resources for you career-wise? So our average age range right now, I believe, is around 29, and our average work experience is on the low end around 2 years of work experience and all the way up to 10 and 15 years. So definitely not at a disadvantage with more experience. You bring a lot to the classroom.
And from a student's perspective, one of the reasons that class is just so engaging and that you can have these robust discussions is the fact that you're all so diverse. You all come from different industries, different ages, and it just makes for really interesting class discussions.
That's a very good point. So next question again is admissions. Is the TOEFL required for international students even if they have been educated in an English medium school? So for us in most domestic schools, what we're looking at for the TOEFL is not necessarily the language spoken in the school, but the country in which you were educated. So if the country's main language is English, you know, that's normally when we don't require the TOEFL. So if you go on our website, rhsmith.umd.edu, and click on full-time MBA, and you go under admissions requirements for international students, we actually have a big list of countries where we don't require the TOEFL. So that's a great question. Oh, follow-up. So the country is India. So we do require either the TOEFL or the IELTS for Indian students, unless if you were educated in India. You know, if you came to the U.S. for school, we wouldn't, just because the school would be in a country where English is the main language. Great. So next question. Could you tell me a little bit more about the Centers for Excellence and how the MBAs engage with them? So I think it's a good question for current students in the room.
So yes, so Center of Excellence, basically we have 13 Center of Excellence, and some of them are DMAN, Center for Entrepreneurship, we have Center for Financial Policy. So these centers, they offer experiential learning program through Smith School of Business. For example, I worked through Center of Social Value Creation on a project on Chesapeake Bay restoration project last semester. So you could do that, and entrepreneurship, Dingman Entrepreneurship, they offer a lot of support. We have Cupid.
Yeah, it's a competition.
Yeah.
You can, at the entrepreneurship office, you can also, if that's an area that interests you and you have a business idea, you can go to them and pitch your idea, and they'll give you just feedback.
Yeah, and plus they also host a lot of events, so you can participate, you can engage, so basically you can integrate them into your MBA as much as you want. You could be part of one of the centers, engage in one of the projects with them, or multiple centers as well. So, and there's a lot of centers. We have Supply Chain Management Center. We have Digits if you're interested in analytics, technology. We have Leadership and Innovation Change Center. So pretty much caters to
every year as well. So, you know, any kind of interest that you have, no matter how niche it is in business, we generally have a center that we can send you. So if you go in a little bit more, but you can work on projects with any one of them.
And the last thing about centers is You can also have a graduate assistantship. Some of these might offer during the school year. So you might be working with a, 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 a collaborator or a professor that's involved in the centers or a project, depending on what the assignment might be.
That's great. So I think one thing we haven't talked about while we're waiting for a few more questions to come in is the Smith experience. So we talked a little bit about clubs and we talked about the Centers for Excellence, but I know as a first year you're kind of researching into projects. If you want to talk a little bit about projects that you're looking into, and if you want to talk about some of the projects that you've done, just to kind of give people an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, SmithX, just to reiterate, it essentially gives you real-world experience, which is incredible. So it's mostly out of the classroom learning where you're actually working with a specific company. As a first-year student, I know I'm specifically really interested in the global programs. So, for example, last year, I believe various people, they got to choose if they went to China, Chile, India, Brazil. So before you even travel to this country, you already are working with the set company. You have an assignment from them, for example, and then throughout the semester, you'll end up traveling there, and they'll also be, on the end, you'll be doing some coursework. But it just, again, gives you that hand-on experience that once your MBA career is, or once your MBA is over, you know, you're going to be in a real-world setting, and you want to make sure that you can apply everything you've learned in class in this real-world setting. So I know specifically for me, I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Adding to what Deanne just said, the hands-on experience outside classroom, that's something that I focused in during my first year, and I'm focusing in second year as well. So I did 2 Smith experiential learning projects last year, one with the World Bank, coming up with a rural electrification system in Bangladesh, and it was a good exposure for me to work with a team in the World Bank, and that I probably wouldn't have gotten out of a classroom. The other project I did was with social value creation, worked with the Environmental Finance Center. So I did not have any background in finance prior to coming to business school. So that was something that I kind of put myself in a situation where I was uncomfortable with, and I wanted to learn. So that was the best way to learn, working with the real world project and the numbers. The next 2 projects that I'm working on right now is New Market Venture Fund, but basically what it does, it allows you to think as a venture capitalist. So for me, coming from an entrepreneurial side, I wanted to always learn about how to grow a company and exit. So that's something that you wouldn't learn in class. So this is a class run by New Market Venture. These are VCs. We have different VC company coming to school every week. We have a lecture series. So basically, it's a very hands-on class. The other one is an interdisciplinary program. It's called MQuest. It's basically it's a design thinking. It's how to improve, how to solve business solution through process improvement and human-centered design. So this is a 1-year program, and it's very exciting.
Great. Perfect. Looks like we got some more questions coming in. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the next question is, what happens during your second year at Smith? What are some of the big things that you're going to be working on?
So second year, you come back from internship, and you don't want to be in school. So that's the first thing. It's a big shock coming back to school after long 3 months of vacation. And just as you get back to school, you will be focusing in your career, finding jobs. The day one, you have to be ready to meet companies that comes to campus. You have to attend info sessions. Like, you have to be ready. You cannot slack. You cannot be in the summer mode. Oh, I will find jobs like in November or something. So very driven. You need to keep that motivation going. right when you come back to school. The classes load, it depends. There's a big variability depending on what you've decided to take. You could focus on mostly in experiential learning, project-based, or you could take classes in class. So that all depends on your schedule. But the huge factor is keep focusing in job search. That starts like the first day in August, coming back to school. And again, going back, touching bases with your career coach, preparing for interviews, case interviews, and so on.
Great. All right, the next question. Basically asking how the global business programs, the global study abroads, how they work, and are they included in tuition? So I don't know if you want to cover some of that, and I can cover the rest.
So there's actually two different types of global programs. One's specifically for consulting, if that's the field you're going into, and then there's a general global business program. You do apply to the SmithX experiences, but as far as the global ones, I know that most students do get into it. There isn't really a small cap on it like some of the smaller programs. And then for tuition, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you pay for your travel fare for going abroad.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe there's some scholarship available,
yes,
depending on what global business program it is.
Next question. Okay, let's see. So asking a couple questions regarding the average GMAT, if we have a lower GMAT, and looking at kind of the qualifications that we look into. So kind of talked a little bit about this before. We really don't have a bare minimum GMAT score that we're looking at. Our middle 80th percentile for GMAT scores is a 600 to a 710. So that's a pretty good range to shoot for. But of course, we have people that fall above that range and people that fall below that range. In terms of experience, we have a big grouping of students, of course, that come from a traditional business background in, say, finance or marketing. But then we also have a big group of people that come from an entrepreneurship background that work in healthcare, engineering, nonprofit work, kind of across the board. So I guess there is no kind of perfect formula for an MBA applicant. For us, it is actually a very holistic process. We look at not only GMAT, GRE scores, and GPA in a very secular way. That's exactly what it is. The test scores speak for themselves. So we really use the interview and the essays to learn a little bit more about you, to see if you're going to be a good fit for our community. We look at your work experience to see, as I said, what you bring into the classroom, the different experiences that you have. And so it doesn't necessarily matter what type of experience you have, more so either how much you contributed to the company. So I think one of the biggest or the best pieces of advice I can give you in terms of application advice is when you're working on your resume, don't just tell us what you've done at the company in terms of day-to-day. Tell us how you've contributed to the company. So if you've increased sales, if you've managed a budget, give us kind of numbers, quantifiable things that help us see not only that you were a great employee by the things that you did, but how you gave back to the company and you made the company better. Those are great things for us to see. Let's see what our next question. Can we elaborate a little bit more about the Leadership and Innovation Center? So it's the Center for Leadership, Innovation, and Change, and really what they do, they're focused on research, programs and activities that help foster leadership. They build organizational capabilities and support and promote effective innovation and change. Really in the form of social stewardship at organizations. So they really look at kind of ways to foster leadership, to create leadership programs. And so as the students were saying, you can work with them on research projects with a real company. You can work with faculty as they do their research. Just like with any of the kind of centers of excellence, it really depends on what projects are available at the time and what you're looking to get involved in. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the biggest challenges as an MBA student is that you have to kind of learn to when to say no.
Correct.
There's so many different projects out there, so many different things that you can do. Center for Leadership and Innovation is just one. I don't know if you guys want to expand on that a little bit more, but that kind of gives you a snapshot of what they do.
Yeah, no, I think that's, and all of these centers also hold events throughout the year. So if it's something that you want to get involved in, but you may not have a ton of time, that's a good way to do it. A lot of them also hold case competitions, things like that.
Great. So I think one of the questions that I could ask you guys that we haven't been asked yet is what is one thing that you wish you had known prior to applying to business school or prior to coming to Smith?
I would say, you know, specifically for the Maryland program, and like I said, I've been here for about 8 weeks, you really learn to rely on your classmates. So for example, one of my classmates just had twins, and you know, we made sure that we ordered a bunch of food for him and his wife. One of my other classmates got married during final exams, so we were all helping him through that. It really becomes this family that you had here. That I know that, you know, Maryland talks about the fit, but I didn't 100%, I guess, realize exactly what that meant till I got here. And as soon as orientation begins, and part of orientation, you actually do some team building activities. You just really start to get to know your classmates on a really quick but deep level. And I'm sure that these will be, you know, friends that I'll have for a lifetime. So.
Yeah. So something that I wish I knew before coming here was well. So basically, coming to Maryland, there's so much opportunities. Allison just mentioned the Centers for Excellence. There's so many things, like how to say no and kind of focus on few things that you really want. Sometimes it could be very overwhelming. Like, you know, there's so many opportunities. You think you'll be missing on something, and you want to go attend every event, and that is not possible. So you have to prioritize and kind of come up with a plan that would allow you to kind of move forward and get basically optimization. Like, how do you optimize with all the resources you have and not kind of get lost within the community?
Yeah.
So I guess tacking on to that, if we don't have any more questions, we can kind of wind down. But based on that, then what would be your best advice for these prospective students coming in?
So I would say just figure out, you know, what you really want out of MBA, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, why are you here? Like, what is the one thing that you wanted to take away from this program? So those are the things that I would focus in, and then kind of just grow your interest within a nuclei, so to speak.
Yeah. I would absolutely do your research, and the fact that you're on this webinar, I think, means you definitely are, which is great. And then just, I would say, as far as the career search goes, the sooner you can start thinking about, you know, what type of company is your end goal. I think that helps as well. And I would say take a month off during the summer as well. Enjoy yourself before you fully immerse yourself in this MBA.
Looks like while we were talking, we've got 2 last questions here. So the first one is, how have the clubs helped you in your career, job, or internship prep or search?
For me, for marketing, GMA has been really instrumental. Just 2 weeks ago, Hershey came in and did an ad analysis workshop with us. So as part of the board, it's really nice to just have that one-on-one time with, you know, executives that came in from Hershey's. And it's a company I'm interested in, so it's nice to they know me, they know my name. And we're just constantly within our clubs just helping each other. So for example, the second years will help us prep for interviews, since they already interviewed with some of the companies that we're now currently talking to. So it's just a really nice network. And at the end of the day, you know, the network you build in business school is going to be the foundation of your, you know, career.
Yeah, to add to that, we also do career tracks. So each clubs, they actually focus on different companies they're interested in, the members interested in. So we do career tracks. We do about 2 career tracks every semester for each club. It's kind of average. So for energy club, we went to O-Power office here in DC, Virginia, Arlington. For net impact, we will be going to NPR in a week or so. So those are the opportunities that you get through clubs.
Yeah, I know finance did a trek up to New York. Marketing also does one to Verizon in New Jersey. So again, just tons of opportunities.
Great. And our last question, how is the environment within the Smith School when it is concerned with international students? So I guess maybe if you guys want to talk a little bit, we kind of talked about some of the resources. If you want to talk about different clubs or different things that you've kind of done interacting with international students.
So there's an international club, first of all, and then there's a couple different, there's the Asian MBA, Latin America, like I mentioned, has their own MBA association. But to be honest, everyone really just hangs out with, as a whole, as a class. You're not just, sticking, for example, I'm originally from Colombia. I'm not just hanging out with my Latin MBA people, and when we have an event, we invite everyone, and everyone comes. Another example is Diwali is today. For those who are from India and are celebrating that. And next week we're having a Diwali dance where I'm not from India, but I'm dancing and learning the dance moves. So we really try and just learn everyone's culture. It's a really nice, unique aspect that you have being surrounded by so many different people from so many different places, and they have just great insight. And also they all had jobs in these places, so it's really nice to understand and get that global mindset of what working abroad is like, if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, that is true. That's just to add to that. Yeah, we are one big family, so to speak, and it's very welcoming, warm. You would feel home. So yeah.
Great. Well, looks like we're out of questions, so I just wanted to thank both our two current students and everybody here for coming. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a little bit about Smith and our community. You'll be receiving an email from us in a little bit, so if you have additional questions or you want to be connected with a current student ambassador, we can definitely make that happen. So please email us at mba_info@rhsmith.umd.edu. Like I said, that'll come in the email. But thank you so much for coming today. We really enjoyed speaking with you, and hopefully we encourage you to apply at Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.